We will begin in a few minutes. I think we are awaiting the arrival of Honorable Stephenson King, the Minister for Infrastructure, Sport, that should be Ports, Transport, Physical Development, and Urban Renewal. So as we await his arrival, we will take in some music under the pitons. Welcome to beautiful Soufriere, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lovely St. Amy Joseph. It is a distinct privilege to be taking you through today's proceedings. We will begin in a few minutes. Apologies. morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project launch right here at Morne Coubaril, Soufriere. Please, before we begin, turn your phones to silent, or if you would prefer to turn them off, that could work as well. We will stand at this time for the playing of the national anthem. Please remain standing. I would like to call on Father Ignatius Setut to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Mrs. Lovely St. Joseph. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ernest Hilaire, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Honorable Bradley Felix, the visitors from the various agencies from overseas, and everyone here, we acknowledge you as we do this opening prayer and ask the Lord's blessings upon this project in collaboration with the government of St. Lucia and the overseas funding agencies. We ask God's blessings on all of you, upon your deliberations in the future, that this project may come to fruition. Let us pray. A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Colossians, chapter 1. We do not cease praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will, through all spiritual wisdom and understanding, to live in a manner worthy of the Lord, so as to be fully pleasing in every good work, bearing fruit and growing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with every power in accord with his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father, who has made you fit to share in the inheritance of the holy ones in light. He delivered us from the power of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. And we give thanks to the Lord and invoke his holy name as we pray Psalm 106. Make known among the nations his deeds. Sing to him, sing his praise. Proclaim all his wondrous deeds. Glory to his holy name. Rejoice, O hearts, and seek the Lord. Look to the Lord in his strength. Seek to serve him constantly. Recall his wondrous deeds that he has wrought, his portents and the judgments he has uttered. He, the Lord, is our God through the earth, and all his judgments prevail. Let us pray. Blessed are you, O Lord, our God, creator of the universe. You have made all things good and given the earth for us to cultivate. Grant that we may always use created things gratefully and share your gifts with those in need, out of love for Christ our Lord. We pray for this launch of the project of the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project here in Soufriere to be able to start or renew the geothermal energy in this town of Soufriere that will be beneficial for all of us. We pray, Lord, for the deliberations and all the discussions that will take place between the government of St. Lucia and the overseas counterparts, that, Lord, this project may be blessed. The employees, all those who will be working there, and that this project may come to a fruition. And today we ask your blessing upon this launch. Grant this through Christ our Lord.
Thank you very much, Father Setut. You may have your seat. Again, let me welcome you all to Soufriere and to the project launch for the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, Minister for Finance, Economic Development, the Youth Economy, and Minister for Justice and National Security. Welcome. Let me also recognize the presence of Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, Minister for Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture, and Information. Let us welcome Honorable Sean Edward, Minister for Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training. We welcome the Honorable Alva Baptiste, Minister for External Affairs, International Trade, Civil Aviation, and Diaspora Affairs. The Honorable Stevenson King, Senior Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Ports, Transport, Physical Development, and Urban Renewal. The Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs. It is also my pleasure to welcome the Member of Parliament for Choiseul Saltibus, the Honorable Bradley Felix, His Excellency Mr. Scott Wood, British High Commissioner to Barbados and the OECS, Ms. Corinne Robertson, the Director General for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office, Mr. Dennis Brushkovsky, the World Bank Senior Country Officer for the Caribbean. Welcome. Mr. Ivor Daniel, the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Infrastructure, Ports, and Transport. All other Permanent Secretaries, Mr. Ernest Auger, the Chairman of the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation, Terence Gillard, the Chief Energy, Science, and Technology Officer, Ken Aldonza, Project Manager, all other specially invited guests, students, ladies, and gentlemen. Right now, I welcome the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Infrastructure, Ports, and Transport, Mr. Ivor Daniel, to deliver the welcome remarks and give you some of the background on today's project. Welcome. Put your hands together.
Thank you, Mrs. of Ceremony, Mrs. Lovely St. Amy Joseph, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister and Minister for Economic Development, Youth Economy, and Minister for Justice and National Security, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture and Information, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister of Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, Consumer Affairs, and Parliamentary Representative for Soufriere, Jacques. Let me recognize perhaps any other members of Parliament, Honorable Bradley Felix, who is the Parliamentary Representative for Choiseul Saltibus, our distinct invited guests, persons from the World Bank, Dennis Brushkovsky. Dennis, I did struggle with your name and trying to correct it, and in the sort of ensuring that it is pronounced properly. We need to recognize His Excellency Mr. Scott Featherstone Wood, British High Commissioner to Barbados and the OECS. The other British members of the team from the FCDO. Let me recognize the British High Commissioner, Ms. Sanderson, and other specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Permanent Secretary, Mr. Augustus Kadi, Mr. Sam Auger from the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, students, good morning. It's indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this event, the launch of a transformational project, our Renewable Energy Sector Development Project. It's been a long journey, and they said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And it's a common Chinese proverb, and it teaches us that even the longest and most complex ventures have a starting point and must begin with the single step. And we see this as a single step to this bigger achievement, where we begin again to explore in St Lucia and in this region our geothermal resources. The beginning of the renewable and the development of the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project, as it's called, started a while now. It actually transitioned from our geothermal resource development project. And at the time when this responsibility was assumed by myself as Permanent Secretary, it seemed like, not seamless, but a journey that would move from us having the feasibility studies, us having the environmental and social impact assessment, and with a very good task team leader at the World Bank, having identified the resources for us and telling us what the numbers are, we thought it was an easy transition. But we had to now be challenged with some other legal issues and challenges that the bank felt we need to clear in order to de-risk and to reduce the risk for the bank, that is reputational risk for the bank and also for us as a country. So there was indeed this long journey in getting here. But even prior to us attempting to get into the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project, we have quite a number, and persons who live in this region would know that there have been geothermal exploration in the past. So, and we had studies going back as far as 1951 with a mission to St Lucia by the late Professor Gunnar Bodvarsson of Iceland, where a field study was conducted on investigation analysis of the possibilities of the Soufriere area for power generation and power production, and wanting to utilize that steam. In 75 into 76, a drilling program was undertaken by Moots and McCullough of England in conjunction with the British Institute of Geological Studies. And that work was funded under the United Kingdom Overseas Development Aid, ODA program. In 87 to 88, the first deep exploration drilling program was undertaken. And that drilling program was funded by a grant from the USAID. And there was also a contingency replenishment fund from the UNDP. So there are quite a number of studies that have been undertaken and attempted in this region. And they are still from our own now assessment of the project. We know that they are wellheads, and I think Mr. B will certainly bear me out on that with our technical officer. So how did we stick to this? A tough task team leader in one Megan Mayer from the World Bank. This lady didn't give up. And she pushed us very hard along with her team. Nia Muki, who is currently our task team leader, and the other support legal persons within the World Bank. And those persons really kept us going, because in renewable energy, if you attend a conference and other countries are boasting of what they're doing in renewable energy, St. Lucia, we always had this void. And because in the development stage, we can speak of other projects that we are going, but we really didn't get to the one that can give us the base load, that is geothermal exploration. So the bank has identified the funding, and the funding is important, and it is an achievement because geothermal exploration is is a very risky matter, and it's one that agencies and the private sector see as very risky. You're drilling way down into the core of the earth, but you now have to spend quite a bit of money to do this. So who wants to take the risk? So thanks to the World Bank, they've identified the funding and help us to financially de-risk this project. And the funding that is now available under this project with the management of the World Bank is $21.8 million US. The goals, major goals of this project are to, one, make an informed decision regarding geothermal exploration and development by undertaking key drilling activities. So 3 slim wells will be drilled in order to be able to prove that we have this indigenous resource, a resource that is of us, with us, and for us. 2, to assist with the economic development of St. Lucia through the establishment of an indigenous source of energy for production of electricity. So it will possibly give us perhaps 50% of our base load in St. Lucia, which is, I think, 60 megawatts. 3, to help stimulate investment in the productive enterprises. And 4, to diversify our energy mix in view of the climate change considerations and security of supply, given the volatility of the crude oil market. So we are indeed grateful to our partners, managed by the World Bank, supported by the British government, and we have also some funding from others, the Canadian forces as well, that will be mentioned by other speakers. But we certainly have an opportunity in St. Lucia to be able to get that energy independence that we're seeking. We expected today to have on display perhaps 2 booths that would have given you a bit of information on this renewable energy sector development project, as well as the experience of Dominica. So if we do not share it with you today, we're hoping that you will see it on NTN, because Dominica, I must tell you, St. Lucia is not alone. Dominica is pursuing it. St. Vincent is also pursuing geothermal, and there are other countries to come through with it. So I'm very pleased this morning for us to have achieved this milestone. We need to thank the government and people of St. Lucia, Prime Minister, for really signing on to this. It's a very good financing package, but it does, with everything else, comes with potentially some risks that we're hoping that through the project execution, we will be able to mitigate those risks as well. So we're certainly pleased to be here. It is one that St. Lucia can now boast about if we travel and wherever we go to, and even in COP, we will be indicating that we are well on our way. We have not proven it yet, but if we do not drill, if we do not test, we will never know if we truly have this resource and the potential for us to develop as a country and to move forward and to give the young ones who are here with us the opportunity not to pay the sort of prices that they pay in electricity now, to see that St. Lucia is not volatile and vulnerable to the vagaries of the oil market. So with these few words, let me thank you and welcome you very warmly to Soufriere, and you can see that nature is around you, and I do hope that some of us and some of you would take the opportunity to see how beautiful this place is and the potential that it is. Let me not steal from the parliamentary rep. I better leave the stage now. Thank you very much and welcome very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can do better than that. These are exciting times. Put your hands together for the team and all of the work that they have accomplished thus far. It is my extreme pleasure to welcome our next speaker. Of course, I am a bit biased. It is the chairman of the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation, Mr. Ernest Auger. Put your hands together for Mr. Auger.
Thanks much, Madam Chairperson. Please allow me to adopt the protocol listed that has already been established. pretty long indeed, and some of the names will challenge me. However, I do recognize our Prime Minister, Honorable Philip Pierre, Deputy, and our district rep, the team from the World Bank, and the team from the High Commissioner. Welcome to God's part of St Lucia. Welcome. Please permit me to state from the onset that we recognize the urgent need for alternate source of energy. Occurrences over the recent past have thrown into very sharp focus the dire need for transitioning our traditional source of energy to a more efficient, a more reliable, a more eco-friendly and sustainable source. We are all too conscious of the impact and reliance on fossil fuels. The stark reality hits us in the face in an even more alarming rate in recent times. Our small economies have been consumed in almost every aspect of the negativity associated with fossil fuel, its emissions throughout the region and in St. Lucia also. And that is made even worse by the greed and the unperturbed behavior of agencies, organizations, and the producers of gas and fossil fuels. Suppliers who don't consider us in the overall plan and exploitative machinations. Because of that behavior, climate change has brought about a reliance on fossil fuels, emissions contaminating our very pristine environment, rising sea levels, just to mention a few. And our poor, dependent populations have become the pawns, while others, much more fortunate than us, unscrupulously indulge in open market semantics and gymnastics. In that regard, we lend our support to the attempt at the exploration of what the evidence suggests that would redound to a more reliable, sustainable, environmentally friendly, and economically viable source of energy. We are conscious also that this technology comes with its fair share of challenges. And so we strongly urge the necessitation of instruments like the EIA, the ESIA, in this consideration. We urge consultation with the local population, for we will be operating in an environmentally sensitive zone. We need to pay cognizance to the fact that you will be operating in an area which has been considered a World Heritage Zone. And that has its implications for development in this country. I am also certain that the virtues and the benefits, the advantages of the conversion to green geothermal energy will be articulated by some of our speakers here today. And there's obviously no need for me to reiterate. However, our meeting today and our people look forward with eagerness at this transformation and the life-changing benefits that accrue. And in according to Julian Zeliger, there is a fierce urgency of now. It has to be done now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Auger. At this time, I call on the Member of Parliament for Soufriere, the Honorable Emma Hippolyte.
Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Philippe J. Honorable Dr. Ernest Auger, Deputy Prime Minister, Ernest Hilaire, sorry, Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Bradley Felix, MP for Soufriere Saltibus. We have our British High Commission for Barbados, our resident British High Commission. We have our rep from the World Bank. We have the delegation from the United Kingdom Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. We have all our permanent secretaries and public officers. We have Mr. Auger, who is the chairman of the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation. Mr. Harold Dalson, our former parliamentary representative. We have the technical team who's in charge of this project. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students, constituents of Soufriere Jacques, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am very, very pleased to be part of this launch of the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project. Last year, in the midst of lifting COVID lockdowns and the return of economies to normalcy, energy prices rose sharply in St. Lucia, across the Caribbean, and indeed the world over, driven by rising energy demands. Many places of work, industry, and leisure were all suddenly in need of more energy at the same time, putting unprecedented pressure on suppliers of energy. Prices increased again in February this year after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Energy prices are expected to continue to increase because only last month, the world's major oil exporters agreed to cut production by 2 million barrels a day, a move planned to increase demand for oil and to increase the price as well. According to the International Energy Agency, the IEA, electricity demands is set to grow by 40 to 60% in some regions in the next 10 years. The growth in demand for electricity will be met primarily from fossil fuels. The IEA's work spans a variety of programs and initiatives, helping ensure energy security, tracking clean energy transitions, and providing information to governments. The IEA is a consortium of 31 member countries and 8 associated countries, comprising of both oil exporting and oil importing countries. Currently, electricity generation is the single biggest contributor to climate change, responsible for 30% of all greenhouse gas emission. Green energy, especially from our geothermal resource, through the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project, offers a shift in demand away from fossil fuels toward non-fossil fuel sources of energy. This project, therefore, represents a radical change from business as usual, promising a path towards zero carbon emissions and energy independence. Geothermal, wind, and solar power generation is expanding around the globe at record rates. allowing more people to get their electricity from clean, renewable sources than ever before. This is great news. The investment in renewable energy will help accelerate the transition from fossil fuel to a future of reliable and affordable carbon-free electricity. This would be an incredible achievement, and the most important step for all of us is to support this renewable energy sector development project. With clean electricity, we can do more than light our homes and power Lucilex grid. There are challenges ahead as we aim to do more, not less. The first challenge is to unlock a source of carbon-free energy to help power the other sectors of the economy as well. The sector that produces the other 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, including transportation, buildings, and manufacturing. Let us think and dream of electric cars and buses, emission-free cooling systems in our homes and businesses, and energy-intensive factories using clean and green power to make their products. The second challenge is probably less obvious and more difficult. We need big breakthroughs in technologies that will allow us to supply the Lucilex grid with clean energy even during windless days, cloudy weathers, and nighttime. The normal practice is to back up renewable sources with fossil fuels that can quickly and reliably provide power when it is needed. To reach zero carbon emissions, however, we need to find a way to use more clean energy sources as a backup. While I dream for a miraculous solution to this problem, there is not one right now. What will be required in the years ahead is a diverse and flexible mix of energy solutions to support a future for renewable energy generation to meet our needs. Some of these solutions already exist. Others will require more innovation. The solutions we need for the transition to clean electricity include 1, energy storage systems, and 2, the sun and the wind, 2 incredible energy sources, finding ways to store that energy to use after the sun sets and the wind stops blowing are big challenges we need to solve. We do have ways to store energy for a matter of hours, like lithium batteries that are becoming cheaper every year. Let us all answer the call and make the commitment to a carbon-free power system. Because of the enormous outlay of investment required to build a geothermal power plant, green energy comes at a high price and takes time. In the interim, we must do all in our power to practice energy efficiency. It is in this context that we must view the launch of this project today. I want to mention 3 areas of direct benefit to our people in Soufriere and Soufriere. 1, temporary employment. 2, geothermal direct use. And 3, gender consideration. In the area of temporary employment, the project will provide short-term construction, employment for residents during the civil and drilling works. The workers on the project may need homes in the vicinity of the project area to live while drilling. Therefore, there may be need for rented homes in the vicinity of the project. There may also be opportunities for caterers and restaurants to provide meals. For geothermal direct use, there are many opportunities that can be harnessed by citizens from the direct use of geothermal energy. Worldwide geothermal energy is used as industrial process steam in space heating and cooling, especially as well in agro-processing, greenhouse control, climate control, geothermal packs, spas, saunas, among others. In the area of gender consideration, an MOU between the Department of Infrastructure and the St Lucia Community College to provide women with educational programs, training and employment apprenticeship opportunities in electrical and or mechanical engineering field and preparing them to obtain technical jobs in the energy sector. I do acknowledge that geothermal exploration and development is an acknowledged high-risk investment. And two, the risk in geothermal development is the uncertainty associated with a natural source that cannot readily be observed or characterized without relatively large expenditure for drilling. I have been informed that this particular phase of the project, phase 2, which is the drilling of slim hole wells, has an allocation of US $21 million. I've also been informed that an estimated level of investment up to plant commissioning for a 30 megawatt geothermal plant in St Lucia has shown, one, production drilling and the steam gathering system requires a level of investment of US $65 million. And two, power plant consideration and interconnection requires an additional investment of US $80 million. These levels of investment augurs well for the South. We're hearing large numbers, but you know, I am one who believes that where there is a will, there is a way. So I call on all to embrace this project and pray God's blessings upon it. In closing, let me invite our visitors here to take a moment to find time during your stay to visit the most beautiful place on earth, Soufriere and St Lucia. Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank the World Bank, the government of St Lucia, our Prime Minister, and the staff of the Ministry of Infrastructure for bringing us this stage. And let us all pray that we can move from this stage to a stage where this project is successful. Together, let us transform St Lucia, and may God guide us on this very important journey. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and let me welcome everyone following us online. I understand that we are streaming live. Welcome to this launching. At this time, I will call on the Country Director of the World Bank, Mr. Denis Bruszkowski. I hope I got it right. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Honorable Prime Minister Pierre, Minister King, Minister Millet, Minister Edward, Honorable Minister Baptiste, Honorable Minister Hippolyte, Excellency, President Woods, and Mr. Robertson. Let me begin by thanking the government of St Lucia for organizing the launch of the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project and for inviting the World Bank. It is my honor to be here and mark the start of a project which is a true testament of a partnership between St Lucia, the World Bank, the United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, the Climate Investment Funds, Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Facility, and the Energy Sector Management Assistance Program. I would like to thank our esteemed partners for their generous support. You can see St Lucia is loved truly by many organizations. Thank you. The project presents a great opportunity to redefine the clean energy transition of the country. St. Lucia, like other countries in the region, is highly dependent on imported, expensive fuels, fossil fuel, to meet the energy requirements, despite being endowed with considerable renewable energy potential. The unstable and high cost of electricity is a significant impediment to investment and hinders the country's competitiveness and burdens consumers, especially the poor. Through this geothermal exploration drilling project, together, we hope to change the energy sector landscape for St. Lucia to provide affordable, clean, and resilient energy for its people. Securing clean and resilient energy will also help achieve the green economic recovery in line with St. Lucia's economic recovery and resilience plan. Moreover, a reduction in fossil fuels for power generation will address local environmental impacts and climate change, recognizing that St. Lucia's contribution to global emissions is negligible. To date, despite numerous efforts, progress on renewable energy development has been slow. This is mainly due to fragmented initiatives and a range of policy, regulatory, technical, and geographical challenges, such as high exposure and vulnerability to weather events, small-scale and isolated power systems, uneven progress on policy and regulatory front, limited and costly access to finance, and having grids that are unprepared for renewable energy integration. But if found, geothermal energy can be a game changer for the country, as it would provide a clean and affordable baseload generation. The World Bank is proud to be partnering with St. Lucia in this important journey from the early stages with the previous geothermal resource development project, which identified and carried out a surface exploration campaign. Now, with the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project that we launched today, concessional funds will be utilized to de-risk the exploration drilling to facilitate private sector investment for geothermal power development. Additionally, there's another component of the project that will provide technical assistance to improve the government's readiness to negotiate a successful concession agreement. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the World Bank has been working closely over the past 10 years with public and private stakeholders to facilitate expanded geothermal development. We have been encouraging new, innovative geothermal resource risk mitigation approaches for early stage development with the hope they might help leverage more financing and be replicated throughout the region. Apart from geothermal, we have been proud partners with the government of St. Lucia in the regional engagement that demonstrated the use of commercial-scale photovoltaic systems through a pilot project that has paved the way for scaling them up throughout the region. This includes the program for rooftop solar systems that is helping powering the Owen King Hospital in St. Lucia. The World Bank Group is firmly committed to helping the country and the Caribbean states transition to a more resilient, sustainable, and inclusive economic recovery from the pandemic by developing their vast renewable energy potential and enabling private sector investments. Our programs cover the whole value chain of renewable energy development, including resource mapping, system planning, de-risking of the sector and of individual projects, development of regional approaches, innovative financing, and public-private partnership and technical assistance. In line with this approach, the World Bank is currently working with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to develop a renewable energy regional facility founded on innovative financing mechanisms that will crowd in investors. This approach will combine both renewable energy and energy efficiency financing at scale for the region, along with technical assistance and capacity building services tailored to support successful transactions. On this note, I'm confident that we will continue and deepen our partnership on the energy sector priorities, and we look forward to working together for a successful implementation of this project and then move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruszkowski. At this time, it is incumbent on us, as we welcome you to Soufriere, to give you a taste of Soufriere. And who better to do that than the Soufriere Action Theatre? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the performing group. We call them SAT, Soufriere Action Theatre.
Bonjour tout le monde qui est assemblé ici aujourd'hui. Good morning everybody. My name is Stivako. I am the coordinator of Soufriere Action Theatre and the theatre director of the group. This morning, based on our discussion with Mr. Chester Alexander and our own little research, we have put together this piece using St Lucia cultural forms. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. In a small island called St Lucia, in the year 2022, when all birds started talking again, there was a great issue to discuss, and the birds called the great meeting. Jacques vol. Jacques, c'est où qui vole?
Vol. Moi, j'ai une question pour moi. Zot pas ouais, puis courant monté. Zot pas ouais, puis glo et gas. Zot pas ouais, pali kawem et tant la pli encore. Sakaléa. Pigeon. Coucou. Où qui t'es quoi? Dis-nous sakalé. Coucou.
Well, my friend Parrot, you ask many questions and claim that it's only one. Well, when man decided to prioritize money and profits over his fellow humans and chose to dig the crude oil out of the belly of Mother Earth to provide energy, he also started the process of destruction of Mother Earth. Global warming. Climate change. Environmental degradation. Impoverishment of animals and humans. High cost of energy and food. To save us, this country must look towards what we have that will not destroy our home and yet provide us with clean, sustainable energy. That is why the government is talking about a mixture that will reduce our carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint.
Solar.
Solar.
Wind.
Wind.
Some level of fossil fuels.
Fossil fuel.
And geothermal power.
Geothermal power.
So, Jacques, this project that we are talking about is the second phase of exploration to determine whether there is enough energy, enough vapor, enough steam in order to set up a geothermal power plant.
Geothermal power.
That is it, Kogo.
À l'avant vol. Vol. Couchibe vol. Vol. Coucou moyen. Vol. C'est où qui vole? Drought in China. Floods in Pakistan. What's going on? Wildfires in countries. Soufriere River dry. What is going on? More dangerous hurricane in the Atlantic. More dangerous typhoon in the Pacific. But they were Sakalea. Sakalea.
Big question. Sakalea.
What's going on? À la vol. Vol. Couchibe vol. Vol. Kayal. C'est où qui vole?
Eclipse Productions.
Them birds invite me to a wake. So I come in to celebrate, they say, the death or the life or the partial life of hydro. Hello, I'm there, waiting. Now, since I have to walk, I started early because I know it's flying, birds flying. So I waited.
Ah, messieurs. Nous avons été compare hydroélectrique. Puis nous avons dit qu'on est encore. Moi-même, c'est comme Paris. Moi, porter une petite bouteille comme Paris.
D'accord, d'accord.
Moi, je voulais quoi qui vous porter ça, vous avez oui. Vous voulez quoi qui ça? Ah, j'ai des hydroélectriques à terre.
Non, tu as fait des trucs qu'on a fait, tu as fait des trucs qu'on a fait. Tu portes ça, moi, je porte ça, moi, je porte une petite bouteille de train tractor là.
Train tractor.
Ça, ça me fait quoi?
Qui quand t'es où ça y est?
On va connaître. Ça sorti.
Train tractor. Moi-même, pas jamais tant ça.
Moi-même, ça.
Non, je ne sais pas train tractor ça. C'est Nayata aujourd'hui. Oui. Eh bien, Nayata cassé tête li.
Nayata cassé tête li.
Oui.
Oui,
c'est pour nous bailler ailleurs nos anti-bagailles. Pour les traditions. Pues ça. Ça va la pour maman. Train tractor ça là.
Monsieur.
Ça va bagaille pour maman. Pièce tigibier. Pas ça pour rentrer par ça. Bon, monsieur. Nous venons faire laver copain hydroélectrique. Puis s'il parle encore. Bon, tradition, nous, c'est pour l'année encore. Oui, d'accord. Nous allons faire laver avec la manico. D'accord, d'accord. Vous qui sont bons. L'argent compte, l'argent compte.
Clojabanou, en pile service, en leasing corps, prior physique, nous servir pour électrique. Les mots, il fait moins bien tout.
J'entends tout ça. Tout ça. Oui. Est-ce que nous répondons? Oui. On t'a si oui, on répond ça.
Glojabanou en pile service pour les corps épiciques. Nous servir pour l'électrique. Les morts, il fait nous maîtrise.
Glojabanou en pile service en leasing corps épicique. Nous servir pour l'électrique. Les morts, il fait nous bien tout.
Est-ce que nous répondons? Oui. Nous allons répondre.
Glojabanou en pile service pour les corps épiciques. Nous servir pour l'électrique. Les morts, il fait nous maîtrise. Hey, Kaya. Hey, vous pouvez pas
Oui, tu es tracteur.
Tout ça pour ça. Tout ça pour ça. La question c'est, what is happening? Or where it's going to happen?
Mi question.
And where it's going to happen?
Mi question.
I've heard about phase 1 geothermal power exploration. Now I'm hearing about a phase 2. Please explain phase 2.
Barrett, you are just a dumb bird. You don't listen. That is what I spoke about earlier. And you did not understand. The first phase told us that there is steam in the belly of Mother Earth. La nuit vapeur bataire, nous savons ça. But we don't know how much. This new phase is to determine whether there is enough steam to build a geothermal power plant.
Geothermal?
Yes, geothermal power plant. Like Bolivia, Iceland, Japan, Kenya, and New Zealand.
Pigeon, you telling me there are countries that have successfully done that already?
But il va attendre. Moi, on va finir train tractor ça.
Bon, monsieur, dis-moi qui côté projet geothermal power ça à propos.
Belle question.
Moi, tellement 3 côtés projet ça à propos.
3 côtés?
Oui. 3 places côté ça à propos. Un Saltibus, un Soiseil, avec Fonché Jacques, avec Belle Plaine en Soufriere.
Belle Plaine? Garçon, vous dites Belle Plaine?
Ça me dit,
garçon, moi, tiens, moi, là, de ouais, quand il m'a examiné, moi, là. Et là, c'est pour faire, moi, je vais venir prêter pour faire projet, il m'a dit ça.
This parrot, it just never gets it right. The government is not just going to take your land just like that.
La petite yo!
They will compensate you.
Nabuto.
Gouvernement va payer pour dawe. Oh! Yo va payer pour délaner ou pas qu'il ça serviteur là. Et puis si yo joignent assez vapeur en bataille là, yo va vier venir faire négocier pour acheter terre. Pour tant tout ça me dire.
Moi t'en ça aussi. Ça a sonné bien. Mais question c'est combien de temps yo va poser?
Mi question.
Oui.
Dis répondre ça.
Question beaucoup.
Oui, dis répondre ça. Moi même vais pour train tractor là ça. Oui.
Drill sites will be 0.3 acres. All the drill wells, they will be slim. Lands will be leased for just 2 years no compulsory acquisition of any land.
Why, Kaya?
Kaya, comment toute information ça?
Moi c'est d'habitude tout.
Vous savez bien quoi maison?
Ah,
bon, merci à ça, lui répondez. Oui,
Drill sites will be 0.3 acres. All the drill wells, they will be slim. Land will be leased for just 2 years. No compulsory acquisition of any land.
Dwells will be
Put it on now,
acres.
Put it on now.
All the drill wells, they will be slim. Lands will be leased for just 2 years. No compulsory acquisition of any lands.
Drill sites will be 0.3 acres. All the drill wells, they will be slim. Land will be leased for just 2 years. No compulsory acquisition of any land.
Let's return.
Bon, messieurs.
Acquisition, ça.
Bon, t'allez,
ça. Fini par ça. Bon,
c'est ça.
Tout le monde peut bouteille ça.
Mon père, hydroelectric. Pas ça dit, nous va aller en bon la vie.
Ça.
Oui, café de pied.
Vous avez ça, café de pied.
Oui. Bon, nous allons aller. Coucou.
Program examining issues of relevance to the nation with your host, Homo Sapien Sapien. This morning is an extraordinary meeting. Your host, Homo Sapien Sapien, meet with birds who have vital information to share.
Coucou.
Welcome, birds. Kumoyok. Welcome. Jacques.
Yes, you man.
Kaya.
Yes, you man.
Pigeon.
Yes, you man.
Kaya.
Yes, you man.
Kukumayok. I see you smiling. It's my pleasure to start this live broadcast with you this morning. Tell me how you see this project visioning for the nation.
Through the leaves and the tree vine. At Earth, there is a mix of renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and geothermal power. They are looking to find balance between loose-like monopoly and an individual generation of electricity.
Human,
yes.
I want to interject at this point.
All right, Bishop, since you have your ears on the ground in the city, I will allow you to interject.
This balance we are talking about between loose-like monopoly and individual generation of electricity. It is necessary to have the legal framework in place for that. Legal framework. And this project is also going to look towards this legal framework issue so that poor people who struggle to set up a solar power system can sell the extra energy to Lucille and make a little caca to sustain themselves economically. So the project must deal with this legislative issue. Yes.
Thank you, Bishop, for sharing this information. I see you raise your wings.
Valuable contribution by Bishop.
As usual.
Yes. But who's going to finance the project?
I could help you with that. The financial aspect is no secret. There are agencies interested in helping through the Clean Technology Fund. Okay. The Clean Technology Fund, such as the World Bank, the Canadian government, the British government, and of course, your local government, the St Lucia government. Yes. Jacques. Pigeon. Since I air technology, I will seek your ideology. What can you tell us about the St Lucia energy objectives?
Human. Well, St Lucia wants to fulfill its commitments under the Paris Accords, which it signed in 2016. Under that accord, St Lucia aims to have 35% of its energy from clean sources by the year 2025. Now, that is 3 years from now. 3 years from now.
Very soon. Very soon.
And 50% of the energy from clean sources by the year 2030. Now, human, that is 8 years from now. Are you hearing anything?
I'm hearing you.
Not far away, not far away.
But I also heard the word commitment. Commitment. Kayal, I see you at rest in your nest, feeling comfortable from the west. Tell me, what's close to your chest? How will this, what are the concerns of the communities targeted for this project?
Kayal is excited.
Always excited.
Noise level monitored constantly to international standards. All grievances will be addressed from all the drilling sites. A desk at the foundation for your attention. Check them by letter or email.
Geothermal energy.
Regular meetings they will have.
Geothermal energy.
Regular meetings they will have.
Geothermal energy.
Let me tell you what they'll do.
Geothermal energy.
To allay all your fears.
Geothermal energy.
They will meet with the people.
Affected people.
All the time, all the time. That is it.
But they had the hot train tractor, sir. Kaikua says up. People have supported flattened with these hot train tractors.
Yes. What a wonderful way to come to the end of this live broadcast. I would like to thank you, Kayal, for calming the fears.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this broadcast. It was my pleasure being your host, Homo sapien sapien. We shall see you again next lesson.
Well, I did tell you that you were getting a taste of Soufriere and all that Soufriere has to offer. I can tell that our partners certainly enjoyed that cultural performance. Put your hands together once again for the Soufriere Action Theatre SAT. I think that was a much needed interlude. At this point, it is my pleasure to call on the Director General for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Miss Corinne Robertson.
How can I possibly follow that? Wow. I would offer to sing my speech, but I think you would be very disappointed, so I will stick to my original plan. But thank you, Honourable Prime Minister Pierre, Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Honourable Ministers and Members of Parliament, Mr. Boszkowski, Denis Boszkowski from the World Bank, representatives of beautiful Soufriere ministries, Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, all the fabulous students who have been sitting patiently at the back, and ladies and gentlemen. It's an enormous pleasure for me, on behalf of myself and my colleagues, to be here this morning and to be part of this wonderful event. As you heard, I'm Corinne Robertson. I'm the Director General in our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Commonwealth and Development, responsible for Latin America, the Caribbean, as well as Africa. And this is my first visit to St Lucia. I've had a very full programme so far, enjoying the beauties that your country has to offer. Yesterday with the Ministry of External Affairs and also with the Organisation of Eastern Caribbean States. And we've been really looking forward, though, to today, because today is all about being out of the offices and seeing some of this beautiful country and meeting partners and seeing some of the cooperation that we're doing together on the ground and the co-funding as key development partners of St Lucia. And I say we because I'm here with my colleagues. I'm here with Rebecca Fabrizi, our Deputy Director, who's also our Special Envoy for Small Island Developing States. I'm here with our Development Director for the Caribbean, Malcolm Gear, over here, and his team, who are responsible for the UK support to this fabulous project, the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project that's being launched today, as well as other partnerships that we have here in St Lucia and in the region. And of course, our High Commissioner, Scott Fursdon-Wood, and our resident British Commissioner, Leslie Saunderson. So we're here in force because we care a lot about our cooperation and our relationship with all of you and with St Lucia as a whole. And Honourable Prime Minister, from what our resident Commissioner has been telling me, I think we should have arrived a few days earlier. I understand we missed the celebrations for, am I pronouncing this right, Journée Kwayol, which sounds like it was a fabulous party. I've seen the pictures, the images of the celebration that you had, and especially it looked so colourful and joyful after the interruption of the pandemic. And I know, and I can see from the performance behind me, what a vibrant culture and party spirit that you have here in St Lucia, and we're very proud to be able to join you today as part of that. It also seems very fortunate, I think, that our mission to St Lucia coincides with this important and historic occasion, the launch of the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project. Our delegation, the size of our delegation present here today, reflects the importance to the UK of our relationship and partnership with St Lucia. And I'm proud to say that the UK is St Lucia's largest donor partner, with grant funding of currently over £42 million. I think that's around 126 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. And I want to thank you, Prime Minister, for highlighting that in your budget address, I think, in April. And I know, I think, with many international partners, the support that we provide isn't very visible all the time, and it doesn't have to be visible. The important thing is that we're here and we're present, and we're doing it because we work in collaboration with our partners, such as the World Bank. But rest assured that we remain committed and very much engaged here in St Lucia. I think it was also lucky that I had the chance with my team to travel along the Millennium Highway this morning to come here, and the West Coast Road. And that was another insight for me into the amazing topography that you have here in St Lucia, as well as the climate vulnerability. The upgrading of the road is I think, the largest portion of UK funding here in St Lucia, in this case through the Caribbean Development Bank. And it's great to see the work that's underway to create a more weather resilient and safer route as well, knowing the value of that road link for many communities here in St Lucia, and very important, I imagine, for tourism and for the economy as a whole. So it's no accident, I know, that around 80%, I understand, of St Lucia government programmes, and those that we fund in particular, have a climate adaptation, resilience and mitigation impact. We know the impact climate change is having on SIDS like St Lucia, and that's why the UK has been and will continue to be a key ally, I hope, for St Lucia and for all of the SIDS when it comes to influencing the climate and finance space and helping to secure better and easier access to finance to ensure that systems and decisions take account of the special circumstances that small island developing states are experiencing. And exactly this time last year, we were looking ahead to COP26, the 26th Convention of the Parties on Climate Change, which was hosted by the incoming, at the time, UK COP president. And that was a landmark moment. We agreed the Glasgow Climate Pact. And I want to reiterate thanks to the Honourable Prime Minister for his attendance and his address at the World Leaders Summit, and for leading St Lucia into joining the Forest and Land Use Declaration, among other things. St Lucia has been and will continue to be a real leader and committed and energetic in this space, advocating for change, and it's really important. We've seen that in your recent adaptation communication as well. Globally, we're in a race to net zero, and we've got to keep that 1.5% target alive, because global warming is an existential threat to all of us, but more so, more than ever, for the Caribbean small island developing states such as St Lucia. On the front line of the impacts due to global warming, and you know too well the vulnerability of people and their livelihoods. And we know the impact that energy sources such as fossil fuels and non-renewable sources have had on the environment around us. We know why we're looking for alternative sources of energy to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And this time last year, we didn't know how acute those discussions of energy and food security would become for all of us, and particularly in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the impact that has had on food prices and on energy security around the world, including in our country. And there's also good economic sense in alternative energy sources, and especially for countries such as St Lucia, to decouple from the volatile fossil fuel market we were hearing about earlier, about the prices that change regularly. And this is even more important now with the current energy crisis, which is driving up electricity prices around the world. Exploring and producing renewable energy is not an instant solution. We know it's going to take time, but it's absolutely essential. We've got to be thinking long term and investing for our future and the future of all of the people sitting at the back and your grandchildren as well. The UK started on this journey with the government of St Lucia and the World Bank back in 2015, when we approved £3.6 million to support geothermal exploration as part of the programme in the Eastern Caribbean aimed at increasing renewable energy and energy efficiency. We're one of several donors who are part of this and recognise the importance of supporting geothermal exploration, which has high upfront costs and risks, we know that, but which also has enormous potential for major reduction in energy costs and transformational potential for economic development in the medium and long term. And that's why the UK is supporting governments in the Eastern Caribbean exploring geothermal energy. And the programme has supported test drilling in St Vincent and the Grenadines through the Caribbean Development Bank, and is supporting this project here in St Lucia through the World Bank, and Dominica, where the viability of geothermal power development has been proven. We're supporting the development of a power plant as well through the World Bank. Projects such as this show the world that even though the contribution of these small island developing states to the cause of global warming is negligible, you recognise the importance of everyone doing their part to reduce emissions. And more importantly, it provides an amazing opportunity to transform the economy, which is really important. This project seeks to tap into homegrown renewable energy, and that energy is much more environmentally friendly and cushions your country from the impacts of volatile fossil fuel markets, and if managed carefully can also contribute to lower energy costs for everyone and to enhanced energy security as well, so everybody can have access to affordable fuel or affordable energy. And this won't just benefit the government, of course, it's about businesses, small businesses, large businesses, households, health centres, and right through to powering homes and schools for young people doing their homework or playing their video games. And it's great to see so many school children here today and being part of this. It's really important because if we get our jobs right here, then we'll be helping to protect your future. So you have to hold us all to account and make sure that we do our jobs properly. And so it's very exciting for us to be here today as you reach the milestone where you officially launch the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project. We know it's been a challenging journey up to this point, and the real work is still to come with the on-the-ground activities, but rest assured that you can rely on the UK and we will continue to be your committed partner and friend on this journey. So in closing, I want to thank the World Bank, of course, and the Government of St Lucia, our partners with the Government of St Lucia, and your drive and determination for getting to this point. And it's fitting that in the last week of the UK's COP presidency, and just as we're about to embark on COP27 in Egypt, we can take part in an event like this that showcases the efforts that the Caribbean small island developing states, and St Lucia in particular, are taking to adapt to climate change and improve resilience. While there are no guarantees, as we know, in geothermal exploration, we're very hopeful that we will be celebrating again with you before too long, marking the next stage of your geothermal development journey. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, it is my pleasure to call on the Honorable Stephenson King to the podium. He is the Senior Minister and the Minister with responsibility for infrastructure, ports, transport, physical development, and urban renewal. Welcome, the Honorable Stephenson King.
Thank you very much, Madam Mistress of Ceremonies. Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Parliamentary Representative for Soufriere, the Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Ernest Hilaire, Parliamentary Representative for Choiseul Saltibus, the Honorable Bradley Felix, Permanent Secretaries, Resident British High Commissioner Leslie Swanson, delegation from the United Kingdom Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, and students. Permit me this opportunity to wish you all a pleasant good morning on this very special occasion. It is truly an honor to be here this morning as we launch the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project, the RESDP, as it is called. Today is an historic occasion for all of us, an occasion signaling the imminent resumption of deep drilling in a project area that originally comprised approximately 10 square miles, which has now been increased to about 30 square miles. Some of us may recall the last deep drilling campaign that was initiated in Soufriere during the period 1987-1988. It's been a long time ago, but let me assure you that we in the Ministry responsible for Energy will endeavor to adhere to best practices at all times when this new phase of drilling commences. The project to be undertaken comprises 2 phases of geothermal exploration activities, preparation and implementation. The preparation stage consists of design services, technical support, and the hiring of 2 main contractors, a civil works contractor, a drilling contractor in this phase. The implementation phase comprises both civil works and drilling works. The civil works entail access road to the drilling sites, water supply works, strengthening of bridges, and the drilling of sites preparation. The drilling works necessitates the mobilization of a rig to enable the drilling process at the location of the well pad. Given that St. Lucia does not have experiences in supervising and implementing geothermal exploration activities of this complexity, the government will be required to procure the services of an exploration management firm to manage and supervise the drilling campaign. To facilitate the implementation of the project, a project team has already been established to provide overall project management and technical inputs on behalf of the government of St. Lucia. The project team is headed by a project manager and in addition comprises a technical coordinator, a procurement and contracts management officer, a financial management officer, a social development and safeguards officer, an environmental safeguards officer, and a soon-to-be-appointed community liaison officer and an administrative assistant. The consultants to the project have recommended 4 drilling sites and have been advised that the proposed order of drilling is as follows. The first well will be drilled in the Belle Plaine area. It is within the Coubaril depression, not far from the hot well site at Belfort. It is flat, easily accessible, and close to Luslec's existing power grid. The second well will be drilled in the northern part of Morne Saltibus area. It is outside the Coubaril depression, but appears to be close to a geothermal reserve. The third well will be drilled in Jacques. It is at the eastern end of the depression and a challenging location for a well due to the number of households in that area. Therefore, the drilling activities will be closely monitored by the Social Safeguards Officer and the Environmental Safeguard Officer, as well as safeguards officers of the Exploration Management Unit. The fourth well, if required, is likely to be drilled at an angle from the Belle Plaine drilling site. This will be decided by the exploration management firm based on the results obtained from the first 3 wells. As a government, we see it fit to pursue these initiatives in the context of energy independence and energy security, as it relates to escalating price hikes of petroleum products in the world market. We have absolutely no control over these escalating prices, as they're driven by external forces beyond our control. St. Lucia, as a small island developing nation, has no evidence of any oil reserves, and we do not produce petroleum products. However, what we do have is a geothermal resource, wind, and of course the sun, solar. We are blessed to have clean, green, and environmentally friendly renewable resources in this country. The November 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, held in Glasgow, Scotland, provoked numerous calls for action to control climate change and save our planet. At that conference, countries were asked to come forward with reduction targets for greenhouse gas emissions, influencing 70% of the world's economy to commit to achieving net zero emissions. In the wake of the conference, some countries are already taking decisive action. The conclusions from the conference highlighted the need to accelerate the deployment of clean energy for power generation as well. Therefore, we as a responsible nation must take decisive action in adherence to the Paris Agreement. As part of the agreement, St. Lucia committed to ambitious goals outlined in its nationally determined contributions NDCs, which aim to reduce greenhouse gases by 23 percentage points by the year 2030. St. Lucia's NDCs provide for very ambitious energy interventions, notably in the power building, and transport sectors, in an endeavor at deriving key emissions reduction opportunities. This complements our National Energy Transition Strategy, NETS, and the Integrated Resource Plan. Based on the NETS, the planned electricity sector reforms, the development of the renewable energy sector development project, and other sustainable energy technologies, both government and the private sector will be expected to contribute to support the energy transition. We need to work to get towards an equitable, clean energy future, not only for ourselves, but for our children and our children's children. We want to make sure that we can enjoy energy independence, energy resilience, and stable, cheaper energy for every household and every commercial entity in St. Lucia. With these established ambitions, we are proud to be at the forefront of the development of renewable energy technologies to accelerate the decarbonization of our electricity system and hence promote and secure access to clean energy. Very soon, some of the leading firms in the geothermal business will submit proposals to manage and supervise the drilling campaign. Many have worked in the Caribbean, right here in St. Lucia, in Dominica, and in St. Vincent. We have been able to attract some of the best talents, and we will engage one of the best talents in the geothermal industry to supervise the drilling campaign and the well testing if we encounter steam. The exploration of any geothermal resource can be a risky undertaking. There is the resource risk as well as the financial risk, which calls for some form of risk management. To address any potential risk, the World Bank has structured a financial package of US $21.862 million and has secured 5 sources of funding. 1, a US $3.383 million from the International Development Association, IDA, credit to mainly finance drilling infrastructure and the project implementation team. 2, a US $3.70 million concessional loan, 0 interest, from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, acting as the administrator of the Canada Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility to finance exploration drilling and capacity building. 3, a US $4.2 million grant from the United Kingdom's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office to finance the technical and management services of an exploration management consultant. 4, a US $8.572 million contingency recovery grant from the Clean Technology Fund. And 5, a US $0.55 million from the Canada Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility for gender grant to finance gender activities intended to address the gender gap in the energy sector, thus ensuring gender balance. In addition, the government of St. Lucia will meet the cost of land leasing and/or land acquisition as needed and associated with implementing the project. Intentionally, we are addressing the risks with the involvement of the World Bank, a major partner in this project. The World Bank's long engagement in supporting geothermal development in St. Lucia has earned it the reputation of a trustworthy partner. The bank financed the previous project during the 2014-2016 period, named the Geothermal Resource Development Project, in partnership with the Clinton Climate Initiative and the Government of New Zealand. A surface exploration campaign was carried out then, which laid the foundation for the work that will be done under this RESDP, the Slim Well Drilling Program. And indeed, we are addressing the risk through public funding of the project via a multi-partner financing arrangement. This type of partnership is critical to the future viability of commercial geothermal energy production in St. Lucia. As earlier studies have demonstrated, reducing the costs of capital to finance geothermal projects is a critical determinant in arriving at the final cost of generating power, and consequently, the tariff. If the exploration drilling had to be financed by commercial developers, the cost of capital would be high, given the high risks associated with the slim well drilling. Moreover, rather than any one partner working alone, a collaboration or a coalition of different partners promises to greatly enhance the effectiveness and impact of geothermal development in St. Lucia by bringing a critical amount of grant funding, concessional financing, and technical support to the table. I am confident that the support of the World Bank and the multi-donor funding agencies will be able to determine whether we have a viable resource or sufficient quality and quantity for the eventual geothermal power plant by the year 2029. This is our goal. This is our dream. This is our aspiration. And we make no excuses for wanting to confirm that we can release every St. Lucian of the burden, relieve every St. Lucian of the burden of overdependency on fossil fuel. Climate change and the resilience of small island developing states are among the most critical issues we face. Our Caribbean leaders must therefore continue to put clean energy at the forefront of discussions and must learn from each other's experiences, as we will learn from Dominica and St. Vincent and others. We must continue to have open dialogue and encourage the integration of renewable energy technologies in our energy mix, thus reducing our dependence on fossil fuels and the impact on the environment. Electricity rates in St. Lucia are a key element of economic competitiveness and growth, and therefore must be reliable, affordable, and competitive. While electricity is supplied reliably, the country remains almost completely dependent on imported fuels for diesel-based generation, resulting in a negative impact on the balance of trade, high electricity tariffs, and exposure to volatile global fuel market prices. Access to clean, affordable, and reliable power is essential for social well-being, human health, education, and economic prosperity, bolstered by reducing carbon emissions in our environment. Our energy system is in desperate need of change, an energy revolution, and liberalization to incorporate more renewables in our energy mix. We therefore import far too much of our energy through fossil fuels. Energy is already responsible for 73% of global emissions, while energy demand is projected to rise by 10% by the year 2030. The direct outcomes of the benefits of today's public demonstration towards achieving energy independence, resilience, and reliable are: 1, it will facilitate the government's decision as to whether to move forward to the geothermal production phase. And 2, it will improve the legal and regulatory framework for clean energy integration. In the long term, the benefits to St. Lucia should include increased renewable energy penetration, lower electricity tariffs for all consumers, increased economic competitiveness and job creation, increased energy resilience and independence, and a reduction in air pollution. Overall, the project will contribute to St. Lucia's efforts to develop a greener, resilient, and independent energy sector, as well as to accelerate economic growth, improve quality of life, and protect the local and global environment. As explained earlier, the exploration drilling phase under the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project involves the drilling of 3 to 4 slim wells, which present several advantages, among which include a methodology that is inexpensive compared to commercial-grade full-size wells. A slim well is typically 30% to 50% of the cost of a full-size well. Secondly, they are intentionally designed and constructed to be inexpensive, and special operations are not normally required. Third, they have a similar footprint, which is an advantage in environmentally sensitive areas, as in St. Lucia, and they yield almost the same information that a commercial-grade well provides. The grant funding and concessional loan will finance drilling infrastructure works, such as access roads, well pads, and water supply required for the drilling campaign. The funding will also be used for capacity building, aimed at increasing the government's capacity to implement the project, strengthening St. Lucia's regulatory framework for renewable energy integration, and supporting a reduction in the employment gender gap in the energy sector here in St. Lucia. In closing, I must emphasize that the overarching purpose of the project is building an energy future that mitigates climate change, that is affordable and reliable. The objective is to advance economic development, improve energy security, improve access to energy, and diversify St. Lucia's energy mix. Fellow St. Lucians, students, we are in receipt of the necessary technical and financial support from the international community and partners in development. Such agencies like the World Bank, the International Development Agency, IDA, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Canada Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility, the United Kingdom's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the Clean Technology Fund, the Clinton Climate Initiative, and the Government of New Zealand, all of whom deserve our sincere thanks and appreciation. To all of you St. Lucians, particularly our students and those who will come, your own government has taken has taken and continues these bold initiatives, and to attain our aspiration as a developing nation, I now look forward to all of you, patriotic and responsible St. Lucians, for your support in making the renewable energy sector development project a success. I thank you and look forward to the success of this initiative.
Thank you very much, Minister King. Let us welcome the Prime Minister of St Lucia, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre.
Thank you very much, Mistress of Ceremonies. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to the students. Let me recognize the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Tourism, the Honorable Dr. Vanessa Hilaire, the Senior Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, the Honorable Stephenson King, the Minister for Commerce and Parliamentary Representative for Soufriere, the Honorable Emma Hippolyte, the Minister of External Affairs, the Honorable Alva Baptiste, the Honorable Bradley Felix, Parliamentary Representative for Choiseul. I noticed the Permanent Secretary is here, and our friends from our partners, including the resident High Commissioner Leslie and the Mr. Honorable Scott Wood, the High Commissioner for the OECS, Mrs. Corinne Robertson, the Director General for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and Ms. Rebecca Fabrice, Deputy Director for the Americas and the SIDS. Let me also welcome Dennis from the World Bank. I almost did not make him out. Dennis has written me so many letters. Let me welcome Dennis to St. Lucia and Mr. Keita Springer and our friends from the World Bank and other agencies. I'm indeed delighted to welcome you to the launching of a very important phase of the geothermal project, the Renewable Energy Sector Development Project, also referred to as the drilling phase, which is the second phase of the Geothermal Reserve Development Project. Let me hasten to inform you that the idea of developing our geothermal potential has been a first for a very long time, and you may not be surprised if there are certain skeptics who tell you you've been hearing about geothermal for a long time. I warn you, you may be hearing that because it has been a first for a very, very long time. Over many decades, we have made several attempts to explore the energy generating capacity of this national resource, but with little success to date. Of course, we understand it's a very expensive and risky undertaking, especially the early exploration stage. And so we have relied heavily on external financing and is thankful for the financing and technical support to assess the potential of the renewable energy resource. For all intents and purposes, the year 2022 has been an extraordinary one for the global energy sector. Crude oil prices have been rising since the start of the year. All this has been driven by the Russia-Ukraine war, which has disrupted global energy supply and prices, as well as post-COVID-19 pandemic recovery efforts. Last month, some of the world's top oil-producing countries agreed to cut the quantity they export in a decision expected to raise petrol prices around the world. The world's major oil exporters, including two of the largest exporters, Russia and Saudi Arabia, have agreed to cut production by 2 million barrels a day, a larger than expected cut, which took effect this month and which represents around 2% of the global oil supply and will have significant impact on the price of goods and services globally. The move is designed to boost the price of oil, which fell below US $90 a barrel from a peak of US $122 a barrel in June 2022. Higher than normal oil prices were the main factor for rising consumer prices that hit countries around the world earlier this year, including St. Lucia, pushing inflation rates to levels not seen in decades and raising geopolitical tensions. I have highlighted this global perspective to underscore the point that the current global energy energy situation should serve as a telling reminder to all stakeholders, including the government, to hasten the transition away from fossil fuels towards the more renewable sources of energy for St. Lucia. And so we are here today to make some progress in that area with the clear intention to move this project forward to shape the country's future economic prospects. While the first phase of the project, which was called the Geothermal Resource Development Project, or the GRDP, was joined to an end, the government, under the leadership of Dr. Kenny Anthony, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance at the time, actively pursued funding for the second phase of the project. That is the drilling phase, which is being launched today. The then Prime Minister, in April 2016, 1 year before the first phase ended, formally requested assistance from the World Bank Country Director for the Caribbean in Washington, D.C., to coordinate efforts with development partners to mobilize the funding to carry out the second phase of the project. And this was continued by the government between 2016 and 2021. This phase of the project encompasses the implementation of the drilling program and associated well testing to explore measures and confirm the magnitude of geothermal energy which is available for extraction in St. Lucia. The government of St. Lucia sees the commencement of the second phase of the project as a very important event in the quest for developing the geothermal resources of the island. Like most natural resource development projects, this geothermal energy development project has to progress in different stages. Investors are highly unlikely to invest their money during the high-risk early exploration stage of geothermal development. This is why we have obtained funding and are grateful to the World Bank from our development partners, namely the National Development Association, IDA, the National Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, acting as the administrator for the Canadian Clean Energy and Forest Climate Facility, the United Kingdom Foreign Colony Development Office, and the Clean Energy Fund, the CFTC. I'm indeed thankful and delighted that most of our partner funding agencies are represented at this launch, and I welcome them again to St. Lucia. This is testament to the confidence the international community places in the potential of the project and its far-reaching benefits to the country. Thus far, the involvement of the World Bank has been instrumental in facilitating the government to implement this initiative, and we look forward to the bank's continued support. The government has secured US $21.682 million through the World Bank, which includes government's contribution to the project. So it is through public sector funding, courtesy of the World Bank and the government of St. Lucia, that we aim to explore the geothermal resource to a level where it becomes bankable, and then investors can be persuaded to fully develop the resource, to ultimately construct and commission a geothermal power plant. If this drilling phase proves to be commercially viable, the next phase should lead to the establishment of a geothermal power plant, which will significantly increase the share of renewable energy in St. Lucia's power generation capacity. We expect Lucilec to play a key role in the geothermal power for integration into the national electricity supply and distribution system. With concessional financing and effective system integration, it's envisaged that geothermal source can potentially supply up to 30 megawatts of electricity, which can provide valuable baseload generation and will contribute to the country reaching renewable energy penetration in excess of 70%. I must, however, emphasize that the availability of concessional finance is critical in determining whether the geothermal resource, if proven, can help St. Lucia reach the 75% penetration. And of course, there will be need for some sort of legislative reform. In terms of the National Energy Transition Strategy, any transition to pursue renewable energy and energy efficiency requires a thoughtful and pragmatic process to ensure stability, reliability, and financial viability. Scenarios with different amounts of renewable energy penetration were examined under the National Energy Transition Strategy in order to develop the St Lucia Energy Roadmap. This scenario, offering the greatest economic results to St Lucia, consists of a combination of solar, wind, storage capacity, and geothermal energy. St Lucia's future and growth potential is highly dependent on its ability to ensure low and stable energy prices without overdependence on fossil fuel imports and related exposure to global oil price fluctuations. Moreover, the use of diesel for power generation results in local environmental impacts and also contributes to global climate change due to the emission of greenhouse gases. Investments in renewable energy options will contribute to government's objective of developing indigenous energy resources as a means of diversifying the current energy mix and ultimately benefit the consumer through stable and low-cost power supply. As stated earlier, for some time now, St. Lucia has been developing energy policies and enabling laws to ensure significant shift downwards in the generation and the use of non-fuel sources of energy. With the current energy security crisis and increase in prices serving as a daily reminder for us to press ahead, St. Lucia needs to fast-track the utilization of renewable energy to meet our household, commercial, and industrial needs, and to further position this country as a global competitor with a resilient modern economy. Similar to individual households and businesses, the high price of energy impacts the operations of governments. You would be aware that the government has been subsidizing the price of LGB cooking gas for many months now, together with the prices of flour, sugar, and rice. We will continue to provide that level of support until these prices stabilize in the months ahead. Our revenue intake from fuel taxes budgeted in the fiscal year ended 2022-2023 have also been reduced substantially. For the period ended October 31st, the net revenue generated from fuel taxes was $6.23 million, which is $29.02 million less than was budgeted for in the 22-23 budget. I want to repeat it. In the 22-23 budget, there was an estimate for taxes on fuel. Up to October this year, we have collected $6.23 million, which is $29 million less than budgeted. So the government's revenue from fuel is $29 million less than was projected, but the government's expenses are continuing and even increasing. This is the battle that we have on our hands with our fiscal situation, the reality. In the medium term, if we can reduce our electricity bills, then more money will be available to improve our healthcare system, our roads, to invest in education, in agriculture and tourism. And so, when we analyze government's energy consumption, we see great value in moving towards renewable energy to reduce our cost of operations and to redirect more financial resources towards impactful social and economic development. Additionally, there is increasing recognition of the role of clean, affordable, and reliable energy in improving the social and economic livelihood of citizens through job creation, investment opportunities, and wealth creation. Let us all be reminded that climate change is having a devastating impact on small island developing states such as St. Lucia. We are witnessing increasing prevalence and intensity of natural hazards such as tropical storms, hurricanes, and prolonged droughts. Such climate changes will continue to pose significant risk to our population, in addition to our over-reliance on fossil fuels for power generation. The government is committed, as part of its national obligations, to explore viable alternative sources of energy to supplement and possibly replace our use of fossil fuels. Likewise, St. Lucia is committed to reducing emission of greenhouse gases while building environmental and economic resilience by implementing sustainable and cost-effective climate adaptation and mitigation methods. Our efforts to eventually add geothermal energy to the national energy mix is consistent with our commitments and can be viewed as a progressive step in that direction. I want to thank all our partners who have assisted us in funding the project. I know there is a lot of work ahead because the project is a complex undertaking. I want to assure our friends and the partners on the World Bank that the government of St. Lucia will do all in its efforts to ensure that this project is successful, and by the presence of the chairman of the DCA this morning and the staff, you understand how important it is, because we have to ensure that the environment is taken care of and all the procedures are met. But you get the full cooperation of the government and people of St. Lucia. I thank you very much.
As I welcome the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports, Transport, Mr. Ivor Daniel, and the Chairman of the Board of Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Mr. Cletus Springer. Please make your way to the stage for the signing of the MOU. This MOU is signed between the Department of Infrastructure, Ports, Transport, and Sir Arthur Lewis Community College to launch the RESDP Scholarship and Apprenticeship Program. 32 scholarships will be awarded to females to pursue education in renewable energy fields at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. The purpose of the program is to narrow the gender gap in employment within the energy sector. We will now witness the signing of the MOU. Wonderful. As you can tell, this is a multifaceted project. At this time, I would like to welcome the Chairman of the Board of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Mr. Cletus Springer, to deliver some remarks. Put your hands together for Mr. Springer.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. In the interest of time, and because my speech is a bit long, I have decided to accept the protocols already established. You will only know if I'm kidding or not at the end of my speech. Honorable Prime Minister, honorable ministers, honorable students, I call you honorable as well, to encourage you to aspire to be in the House of Parliament as they are at some point in your lives. Permit me a personal note. In 1986, I had just joined the Ministry of Planning when the planning for the geothermal drilling by a team called Big Chief was about to start in St. Lucia. And I remember our weekly planning meetings been very animated because this was the biggest project that we were undertaking at the time. And I want to acknowledge the contribution of my friend, Mr. Al Barthelme, in that effort and his continued involvement in this effort. I think this is a good plan. Prime Minister, I know you are pushing a youth economy. I think a retiree economy, an economy for retirees is equally appropriate. And I want to offer my services in that regard. I'm hopeful that this time around, the challenges that beset our efforts in 1986 will be a thing of the past, and that within the next 7 years or so, we will have a plant, a geothermal plant operating here in Soufriere. I was in Dominica for a risk and resilience conference 2 weeks ago, and I was a little bit jealous when my friend Dr. Vincent Henderson announced that the drilling rig had just arrived at the port and that they were in the process of moving it to the drilling site. So as you've heard, we have just signed this agreement, and I want to tell you that the Board of Governors of the Saltibus Community College, and indeed the entire community of faculty and students at the college are really delighted to be part of this project, which we see as promising some very far-reaching social and economic benefits for St. Lucia and as well for St. Lucians. You've heard references to recent events in the global oil market, which have reinforced the urgency for small states like St. Lucia to make what I call no regrets investments in renewable energy development. There have been oil crises before, 1970s, I remember them very vividly, 1980s, when we, in St. Lucia, we put in a whole sweep of energy conservation measures. Vehicles under 1,600 cc's were not allowed, and so on and so on. And we've gone from this to several epochs of energy crises. But this one is really, really rough. It's really rough because it's coming at a horrible time. It's coming at what we hope is the tail end of a devastating pandemic, and at a time when all governments, including ours, were looking forward to rebuilding their finances and so on. And you heard from Prime Minister Pierre how devastating that impact is on the energy surcharge or tax. In 2019, renewable energy accounted for nearly 12 million jobs worldwide. And it is estimated that by 2030, which is in another 30 years or so, another 78 million jobs will be added. But the ILO, the International Labour Organization, reminds us that these emerging jobs are conditional on the availability of skills and training. So in one word, this means education. In countries with mature renewable energy profiles, jobs in renewables are proven to be attractive to many young people. And as we know here in St. Lucia and across the Caribbean, there is no shortage of unemployed young people for these jobs, but they will need to be educated and trained. I see this as a call to action, not just to the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, but to the education community writ large. Our education system will need to be so designed that students can enter the renewables jobs market even while at primary school. I know that Minister Sean Edwards and the leadership in the Ministry of Education are not alarmed by this statement by me. And I know that they're aware that a paradigm shift is taking place in many developing countries, or developed countries as well, where a higher premium is being placed on competency than mere qualifications. Another undeniable driver of this trend is that STEM-related disciplines, such as coding, computer programming and repair, robotics, and things of that sort, that used to be available only at higher education institutions, are now being taught at elementary school in the United States. I have an 8-year-old nephew who is doing coding in the United States. And that really indicates that the private sector, corporations are poaching, not in universities. They're poaching high schools for these skills. So that's the message to us. So the agreement we'll sign today acknowledges that a successful transition to renewable energy will require the integration of traditional and new fields of study. Critically, it seeks to encourage women to equip themselves to enter the renewable energy sector. And we are hopeful that this project will provide more trained female teachers in our college, in our engineering department. I give you just three statistics, three metrics, and I will close. In an average year, 3 times as many men as women enroll in engineering-related courses at our college. And this is even though, on average, about 6 out of every 10 students are women. Another metric of interest is that between 2015 and 2017, the participation of men in the workforce outnumbered women by an average of 78% to 66%. For the youth category, between 25 and 30 years of age, the ILO estimates that in St Lucia, from 2000 to 2021, young men outnumbered young women by 60% to 51%. So, against the backdrop of these statistics, we are convinced that exposing more young women to emerging job opportunities in the renewable sector will help to build sustainable livelihoods, mindful that many households are headed by women. The Saltibus Community College stands ready to support the policy dialogue that will help to reshape St. Lucia's education policy and strategy to ensure that it drives the transition to new and emerging job opportunities in renewables and more generally in science, technology, innovation, and research. I thank the leadership of the Ministry of Infrastructure for involving the Saltibus Community College in this transformative initiative. And I'd like to thank the representatives of the donor community for making this project possible. If you have the time, I'd like to invite you to visit our campus at the Morne Fortune, where we'll be happy to give you a tour of what we do and why we do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Springer. And with that, we come to the end of today's historic, game-changing, innovative, all of the adjectives that you can think of to describe the launch of today's program. Now we're going to treat you to some Southern hospitality. We invite you to join us for lunch. The restaurant is to the back, to my right. Let's allow our government officials, our stakeholders from the World Bank and the Foreign Office. We have some very capable ushers who will be guiding you to the restaurant area. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the government of St. Lucia, our partners, the World Bank, the UK Foreign Office, our permanent secretaries, our students, our invited guests, every single person who in one way or the other contributed to the successful launch of this renewable energy sector development project. Put your hands together and enjoy lunch. Ushers, please come in.